Yeah, it was up there.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, April 23rd at 9 a.m. Time for our weekly Catalina County Board of Commissioners weekly meeting, and we'll open the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. And Cindy, you want to lead us today?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cindy just returned from our nation's capital, so I knew that she'd be all geared up to lead us in the pledge.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, Cindy. A couple of housekeeping chores. If you got a cell phone, which I'm sure you do, please turn it off or silence it. If you do get a call that you need to take, please go out in the rotunda area so you don't disrupt the meeting. This meeting is being streamed live, so if you approach the board, more than likely you will be on the stream. Just heads up is all that amounts to. Is there anyone in the audience that has something that they want to bring to the board that is not on the agenda? That is not on the agenda.
The agendas that are laying on your desks are an update from the one that I emailed out because we had one more item come in on Thursday.
Anyway, We will allow time during the open if there is anyone, but I don't see anyone that has anything. How about the board? Do you have any conflict of interest of any items on the agenda? Anything that you can see? I don't see any, so with that, I will
Make
entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda.
A motion by Hatton, a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. How about a motion to approve the minutes of the
Approve as
16th?
emailed.
We have a motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. Let's go on to item number 5, which is reading and action to adopt ordinance 69. This is the second reading. We will not be taking any public input at this time. We had the public hearing last week, and I'm going to turn it over to Luke at this time. Luke, and there's a copy of the ordinance on your desk, and I'm sure Luke is going to read this line for line, all 18 pages. Luke, maybe not.
You tell me where to go to hide it.
Hey, him. We'll start at the title, and then that's the only part we'll read verbatim here. Good morning, commissioners and everyone. The first duty here is to read by title, second reading of this ordinance, Ordinance 69, which is an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 3.04 Agricultural District of Article 3 District Regulations and Chapter 5.21 Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations of Article 5 General Provisions of Ordinance 65 and Ordinance amending Ordinance 15, which was an ordinance establishing comprehensive zoning regulations for Cottington County, South Dakota, and providing for the administration, enforcement, and amendment thereof pursuant to SDCL 11-2, 1967, and amendments thereof, and for the repeal of all resolutions and/or conflicts, ordinances in conflict herewith. That's the title. 17 pages follow. And I am going to give a Clips Notes version of the history on this, and then just a couple of things from the last meeting. This commission will recall, as well as many in the county will recall, that going back 2 years ago is where this dates back to. March of 2017, we adopted, had a countywide vote, adopted the zoning ordinance, readopted the zoning ordinance and rules that we had in the past. One of the things that the county commissioners at the time had pointed out, though, was that we were going to review and update the zoning ordinances. We held public meetings starting in April that year, right away after, found out, have public listening sessions to figure out what sections need to be tackled first. Administration was one of those, and that was one of them that was brought up more from staff, county commission, and attorneys. As well as a little bit from the public. Then we went to, then it was pointed out that wind energy, concentrated animal feeding operations, and residential. We talked about wind energy, worked on that last year. The board asked for kind of a break after working on what they thought was going to be a lot shorter process, turned into a lot longer process. And then we picked up concentrated animal feeding operations around the first of the year. You've been involved in that, county commissioners, as well. But what we did leading up to the beginning of this year was we sent out questionnaires. We had public online surveys, as well as sent out questionnaires to producers to get a feel for what sort of regulations they'd see going into place and what their expectations are for animal agriculture in the county going into the future. We held starting around this year, at the beginning of this year, we started with policy discussion and a joint board setting in which the county commissioners and the planning commission sat in, talked about existing policy. Is that a wrong policy? Reviewed the responses in the questionnaires that we had sent out, and what we'd found with that, as well as just current conditions on the ground. Got through whether or not the ordinance matches the intent of the policy, and a couple of things that came out were the idea that both boards agreed with some of the folks of the public who indicated we need to have setbacks graduated above 2,000 animal units, which today it was all the same, and then to remove some duplication of enforcement that the state has jurisdiction over, allow the state to remain in jurisdiction over those things. And then the third thing was not just to list things for the sake of listing things, which we had some things in the ordinance that we didn't really have the expertise to be enforcing. Finally, after January, February, March, we held our hearing last week with the Planning Commission and County Commission. At that public hearing, we had 2 individuals show up after sending out letters to townships as well as individuals and notifications in the paper as well over the last 3 to 4 months. 2 individuals showed up to the public hearing, 1 spoke, and after the public hearing, the Planning Commission, as they have the ability to do prior to the first reading, made recommendations for a couple of amendments that I would frankly call minor to the previous draft, but I do want to point them out. Aside from, and I'm not going to highlight the typos really, but there were a couple of typos in which we updated that have frankly lasted since 1997, where we reference Class 4 versus Type 4 and Type 4 versus Class 4. We made that consistent throughout. That's an example of some of those typos, but I will go to, I'll tell you where here, Lee, unless there's something you can remember different, but I'm really not, there was a section in which we clarified, it was kind of conflicting as to where and how digesters and covers, that sort of thing, would be required. The intent, as discussion was, and the board as well as the commissioners agreed that the intent was that those sorts of things could be added to if there's an existing operation or something to decrease how far the odor would go, to do that, as opposed to require it haphazardly on something that may be farther than those setbacks would require. So we just wanted to clarify that. Probably the main thing that was a change from the previous draft, and I know the commissioners who had sat in there that may not have been there at this meeting would recall that going through the discussion, there wasn't a ton of solid footing consensus on, yes, this is what, actually, Lee, if you would go to, just go to page 11. Is what
the definition, where you redefine the classes in page 11.
Yeah, I go down to page 11. We'll just go to the setbacks part there. Where we had previously had discussions about 2,000 to 4,999, and then 5,000 to 10,000 being those breakdowns on that middle and right side. It kept the top end didn't change that, but within the middle went to 7,500 animal units instead of 5,000 animal units. And the bottom line was that the discussion led to, there's really not a whole lot of the jump that you're talking about for operations taking, just not seeing that number, the 4,999, the 7,499 would be more apt to be the case, and existing operations would be more apt to be to that level than anything else, than to go up to just 5. So, and again, the board didn't have a strong indication either direction, just knew that it needed a stair step, and that top end was going to be a mile at 10,000. So that change in the middle was the only change in amendment there. We talked about the ability of changing, talked about going back and forth as far as just taxonomy, which one, a class 3 or a class 4, how to name them, but ultimately left the naming the same from this last meeting, I guess. The only other thing that I would point out, if someone had an old draft on this page as well, you can see the separation distances, setbacks. We reference federal, state, township, and county right-of-way. Previous draft inadvertently had omitted the word township in it, so we made sure to point that out into there. I don't remember anything substantive between the 2 meetings that would have been different than that, unless anyone here does.
Just one thing, I was there kind of, not as a member of the Planning Commission, but just as a county commissioner, and One thing that I think to emphasize is even with these stair steps, there's a lot this ordinance gives and expects from the Planning Commission to, to look at that. I mean, these are suggested setbacks, and there's other things, other mitigation measures that are highlighted. Whether maybe it needs to be bigger, but maybe it could be smaller. And I think that was kind of when Commissioner Hanton made that amendment. I think you're keeping in mind the fact that things are changing, technology is changing, and so the key thing is odor mitigation when we're talking about setbacks. And so since there are ways to do it, and that's constantly changing, so I think that's a key thing to point out, that it's worth going through the whole ordinance and understanding it. But while you have these suggested setbacks, there are ways in which to either increase it if that's what the Planning Commission wants to, or even decrease it if the developer or the producer is doing things that will mitigate that. So
I think that's a good point, and I'm sorry to jump on top of that point, but it's one of the things that I know the County Commission remembers us talking about in this process was that some of those, if you see an instance where you could see yourself allowing a setback to decrease, then it needs to be written into the ordinance and not just by gosh and by golly. So do our best to do so. The irony is that we try to point out, read the whole, there's 17 pages here, and take a look at more than just the one-page table. Ironically, and I apologize to the public and anyone else, I told you to look at the table and nothing else. Bottom line is, there's more to it, and as Commissioner Gable just pointed out, there are things people can do to cause the setbacks to decrease. There are things they can do that will ultimately lead to the setbacks increasing on them as well, listed within that ordinance as well. And I encourage anyone who needs to go through the process to go ahead and take a look at it, and anyone who's concerned about some things to go ahead and take a look at that as well, as far as things they can do. But that's it. Unless there's questions of me, I will sit back and...
Anyone have any questions for Luke? Any of the commissioners here? Anyone?
Some of those things that you were talking about reducing that setback, biofilters, lagoon covers, methane digesters, that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. That, all the way down to pit additives and shelter belts, as well as just simply someone signing off saying, I frankly don't care. It's fine. I live in the country. So anything in those directions.
I would make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion by Hatton to approve the ordinance 69. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Gable. Any more discussion? I think probably the one thing that amazes me is when, the producer that was there talked about, where do you stop? But we know that there's an application just in the neighboring county for 14,000 animal units. 14,000.
14,000 dairy cows.
14,000 dairy. Yeah, that's a lot of cows. 14,000. But and he said, well, 10,000 isn't that many anymore, because if you figure in some of the younger stock that you have to figure into that, but these numbers are unbelievable now. When we were milking 50 cows back home, we thought that was a big operation. Now things have changed. All right.
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, just the key to highlight what Luke said. I think the key change here is the stair step setback with the size of the capo, and then and that was done with a lot of survey. Then we did have one producer come to the meeting. And I appreciate the work that the Planning Commission did and that Luke did. I mean, it's a lot of very deliberate, careful process. So thank you for that.
Many hours. Many man hours went into this, and women hours. All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, and you will have the...
Yeah, we'll do the notice. I'll get the notice of adoption to Cindy. I did want to point out one thing that I think not on this ordinance, but on an action item that went on at the last meeting. I just wanted to clarify, because I'll be putting it into the minutes to clarify it as well. But we had an applicant that had 2 plats on the agenda, and I wanted to make sure that I just restated that because at the previous meeting. We had them approve. It was one individual is how I had it listed, but he had 2 plats. He had LBJ addition at his house, which was a farmstead exemption, which I mentioned, and then he had another plat, which was Korth Edition, which was a school lot. I'd mentioned them both, but I think I referenced them as one versus the other, so I just wanted to point that out, that he had both of them on, I was referencing one versus the other. Got to be a long night, so.
Yep,
Thanks, everyone.
you bet.
Thanks, Luke.
All right, let's go on then to item number 6, and that's an action on a request to sell alcohol at a private event at the Extension Center. And Renee, and I don't know who your helpmate is there, but Renee Grable. Please come on up and introduce yourself so the press and everybody will know who you are, and so that you can get on the live stream and make sure it hears. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Morning.
And what is your request and for when and so on and so forth? Go ahead.
I'm Renee Grabo, and
I'm Jared Schilling.
we're requesting to have permission to have alcohol at the Cottington County Extension Complex on May 4th.
And what is this event for?
Our wedding reception,
Who's transferring the license over?
2nd Street.
Okay, and they're taking care of all the legal parts of that then. I'll make a motion to,
We have a motion by Hatton to
Second that
allow this, and a second by Troy. Any questions? Any comments? Now, what was the date again?
May 4th.
May 4th.
Coming up soon.
And that's all cleared with the Extension Center with Becky out there, all right? And what kind of security are you going to have in terms of patrolling and for underage consumption?
I think Second Street.
Second Street. The license holder is basically responsible for that, so.
Just so that you understand that this has to happen, we have to have some security of someone. Any other comments, questions? Troy was about to say something, were you?
No, just that the licensee would be the one that would
Yeah.
provide that, I believe.
Anything else? Any other comments, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. And
Congratulations.
good luck, and we wish you well in your marriage.
Thank you.
You sure you know what you're getting into? Now, this would have been a good
Maybe you
chance
should be asking
to
her.
dodge it, you know?
Maybe you should ask her, not just the guy. Can go both ways here.
So now, if we would have denied the license, no, just,
Would have a reception.
yeah.
This would have been,
It's still going to happen, right?
if you would have tipped me off, this would have been a good place where we could have shut this whole thing down right here, you know? All right, thank you for coming in, appreciate it. All right, let's go on to monthly reports, and Jim, Emergency Management. How you doing, Jim? Good morning. Still fighting floodwaters, huh? Not so much anymore.
Good morning.
Morning, Jim.
Just got a few things to go over this morning. Begin with, Sherry and I are continuing to gather all the FEMA disaster declaration paperwork from the cities and the townships. We have to have all that put together and into Pier at the end of this week. So we're working with the townships.
Have you got them all in yet?
Do we have them all in?
Yeah?
No.
I didn't think so.
You know,
Would you like to name the townships that were missing, so
No.
the public knows who's not getting their stuff in?
I'd have to go down the list, but, you know, it's a lot of work, you know.
He
It's,
dodged that one, didn't he?
And you're looking at, you know, maps, and you're looking at photographs of, we're also, I'll let you know that we're also working with the state's working with FEMA on our historic snow event. We broke the 2-day record for snowfall here in Watertown, along with the 3-day snowfall record. So it's a historic snow event. Along with that event was a lot of power line damage and stuff down south of us. So they're working with FEMA on a possible disaster declaration for that. I said that there's nothing firm on that. You know, we're working. I think that we'll qualify, but you know, nothing is confirmed yet. I just talked to Pier again this morning before I came up here, and like I said, they're working with FEMA on it now. This week is our Severe Weather Awareness Week. So on Wednesday, we'll be testing all the weather sirens, 10:15 I believe it is. So at 10:15 on Wednesday, we'll be testing all the weather sirens in Cottington County.
Put your dogs in.
Yeah. And then after that test too, for the city of Watertown, we'll start doing our weekly siren tests on Friday at noon after this week. Sheriff Howell and I are continuing the process of visiting the rural cities and attending city council meetings to touch base with them to see if there's any concerns or any assistance that the county can provide to them on different projects. And we're continuing to do that. On this coming Monday, I'll be attending the Watertown City Council meeting, or not the City Council meeting, but the department head meeting. That'll be this coming Monday that I'll be attending that. Homeland Security Grant meeting that we held in Webster on April 3rd. The police department, the fire department, the sheriff's office, and myself, we sat down, we looked at our requests. We knew that we had, requests that were probably higher than what we would be able to obtain funding for. So we said, okay, now what can we get by with? What would you be happy with? And we pared down those requests. And I think the way it looks, we'll get funding for those reduced requests that we submitted. So there was a high amount of requests. So there's projects that that were prioritized, 1 through however many, and there's some projects there that will not receive funding because there wasn't enough money to go around. But the meeting went pretty well. I don't think anybody walked away from it upset or mad or anything. So, and that's the way it usually is with us. There's give and take, and we work it out up there at the region. Let's see here. Oh, the last thing, the sandbags.
Yep, and that's item number 8 on the agenda, so let's just go ahead and do that, should we?
Should we can, yeah.
Action to approve the purchase of sandbags, which is your baby. So,
Right.
do you have a number for us? And,
We're looking at purchasing 50,000 sandbags. When going over, I think I'm right at 48,000 bags that were used this spring, but we'll get a discount of 1 cent per bag by ordering 50,000 as compared to a lesser amount. So with the board's permission, we'll order those sandbags. They'll probably be delivered in here to Watertown later this week. Hamlin County's doing the same thing with all the problems they're having down at Lake Ponset. So
I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make that
Motion by Gable, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion?
Just
Any
a
discussion?
curiosity question, what's the cost per sandbag?
well, by ordering 50,000, we can get them in for 13.5 cents per bag. Normally, the lesser amount, you're up there at 14.5 or 15. In fact, it's been many years now since we ordered any, but those were like 15 cents a bag. But now that we're ordering off a state contract price.
Right.
The state has a contract in place for these sandbags, and by ordering 50,000, we'll get it for 13.5.
There isn't any hemp material in the process of making them, is there?
I think it's all something else. No,
That's a big deal now, yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Go ahead and get them in.
Okay.
And
Thank
thank you
you,
for your work.
Chair, I have just one more thing
Yes, go
to
ahead.
ask Jim
Go
here.
ahead.
Jim, down south in Hamlin County, they've got a mess down there, Dave Schaefer, you know very well. Does he need any assistance from our county as far as?
The only thing, we've got about 3,900 sandbags out at the Extension Center in storage there. And that'll be something that we'll be discussing at the city department head meeting on Monday. Do we still need them, or do we feel that the flood threat is behind us? If the flood threat is behind us, what we did back in 2011 is we'd loaded up those excess bags, and we trucked them down to Lake Ponce for the people down there.
The empty bags or?
No,
filled
these
ones?
are all filled.
Okay, yeah.
Because we
That's
have
what I
to do
was
something to get them out of the barn anyway. You know, we can't leave them in there with stock shoes and stuff that will be scheduled in the future,
I
so.
wonder, is there any chance that as the sandbags come down along the Big Sioux, as our threat subsides, that we could reallocate some of those filled sandbags in addition to those 3,900
Right.
down to Hamlin County?
Yeah, and, you know, those bags were filled and they're, you know, in storage for city infrastructure.
Right.
So, you know, as far as myself making any decisions on the bags, you know, that's what we've done in the past, but it'll still be up to the city to decide
Yeah.
when they want to get rid of those surplus filled bags.
Just an idea.
Very good. Good job. Keep up the good work, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other
Jim.
questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Brad's not here. Is he not finished
I
up?
have not heard.
He did, it seems like he just gave us the report, what, last week or the week before?
Yeah, well, he was late. He was late.
Yeah, he
This
did.
is his normal day,
Yeah.
and I just put it down, and I didn't hear anything from
I'm
him.
guessing
All
probably.
right.
Yeah, because didn't we did a car, that Charger, wasn't that on his report last month? Anyway, whatever.
There were a number of things,
didn't get the
yeah. I
statistics
think he had
that
2
I
months of
projected.
statistics.
Yeah. All right, let's go on then to number 9. And Rick, you want to come up, opening of asphalt mat construction bids and possible action to award bid. And Rick, it's your baby.
Good morning.
Morning, Rick.
That is the only bid that I have received.
And we have bid sheets in front of you. And we have one bid, huh? Here, save these for next year.
You never know how many you're going to get.
Never know. Better to have more than not enough.
Okay, this is from Gunnick. Okay. For virgin material, the bid A is $85.88.
$85.88 per ton?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was for virgin material. The recycled material is on the bid B. That is $75.25 a ton. The bid C for the 1,500 ton in place throughout the county is $96.43 per ton for virgin. Bid D for recycled is $85.82. And bid E, the 500 ton picked up at the plant, is $74.50. And the bid F is $59 for recycled.
59 even.
Yep.
And those are both if they're picked up at the plant. Well, I guess a recycled would be,
Yeah, the bid E and bid F are picked up at the plant for us to, for
here.
patching. I'll have to go to the back and pencil out some numbers and get back to you on the rest of it, so.
Okay, at the end of the meeting, we'll bring you back up.
Okay.
Will you be ready at that time to
Should
give
be.
us a recommendation?
Yep, we only have one, it should be.
Yep. All right, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick, you want to just hang in here for 1 minute? you don't even have to sit down. It's not, item number 10, action to authorize the chair to sign a contract with Zach Liff Construction for Highway Department pole building. Is there anything that we need to add, or is that, it was reviewed and it's
Yep,
good to
it
go?
should be good to go.
All right,
I just have one more for the electrician to sign, so,
okay.
That comes around.
yep.
Okay, are you all
Make
good
a-
with that?
Yep, I'll make a motion to
We have
approve.
a motion by Hatton, a second by Waterman. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Rick. All right, now we're going to switch over to Cindy, get some comments here, action to declare tax deed property surplus to be sold at public auction. And we have, how many, 5 of them?
1, 2, 3, yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including the one we did not sell last time, which we probably already declared surplus, but we'll just add it to the mix again today. And, you know, we set the auction date, but we do need to declare these properties surplus because now they are owned by the county since we took them for tax deed proceedings. One in Lake Township that did not sell at the last piece, or last sale. The second piece is at 705 North Broadway. 2 pieces in Henry at 307 2nd Street and 401 4th Street, and 2 pieces in Kransburg, both near 203 St. Peter Street.
Move to approve declaring these surplus.
To be sold.
To be sold at public auction.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? What was the date again, just a reminder?
May 7th.
5/7.
Our next meeting.
Since we won't be meeting next week.
Yep.
Okay, any more discussion? Anything else? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next one, item number 12, and there is a handout, or there is an explanation in your packet. And this deals with a pass-through for a grant for the Historical Society.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that.
Cottington County in previous years has acted as the pass-through for these grant funds that come from the South Dakota Historic Preservation Commission and go to the Cottington County Historical Society. So we're just the pass-through to allow them to receive the grant funds. What we do is we pay the bills, submit the grant form to the state, they reimburse us, we do an automatic supplement to the budget.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? I do
And the
see
amount
that.
of that grant is $1,272. But that's the dollar amount. We do not include the match.
Yeah.
Yep, so the amount that we are approving is $1,272.
Good. Anything else? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, Lee, number 13, is there any change orders to submit today?
No, Mr. Chairman, just, I think we'll get one last one that's, has to do with the electrical circuit where the security point is. I don't think it's going to be very expensive, but waiting on that one, but I think that's probably going to be the last one, I hope.
I've noted that every time I've come through the courthouse, they're using the courtroom, so it's getting used.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any complaints from anyone, so it must be working all right. And if you ever stick your head in there and look around, and there it looks nice. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
very functional.
Yeah.
Very
Will
good.
you decide anything with the desks, though?
I think we're.
The attorneys.
I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be all right. But, you know, as time goes by, I guess they'll figure out, you know, maybe put this thing over here or this thing over there, so. But it's you know, the room is an ideal courtroom, but it is a historical building, so, you know, you might not, if you were to build one, you might build the room a little wider in particular, so that has to do with where those desks are positioned, and, you know, still allowing for handicapped access toward where the clerks sit and where the bench is, so.
It's kind of like building a sidewalk, Lee. You should just watch where the traffic is for for a year or so, and then put the sidewalk where the path is. That was, we discovered that up the lake area early on. Just build the sidewalk where everybody goes, you know? That works out the best.
Well, sometimes you have the opportunity to do
All right, let's go on to number 14, action to approve claims for payment.
We have several of those. It's our credit cards claims that we pay this time of month to avoid service charges. The first one is to Visa Reliabank for $958.70. It includes the cost for my NACO reservation, NACO registration, I should say, and my hotel room, or my air flight, that's what it is. And these amounts will be reimbursed to the county through the South Dakota Association of County Officials. And also there were minor supplies for the nurse's office in the amount of $11.72 on there. Next one is also Visa Reliabank. It's for the sheriff's office. It's for a Police One taser training is what it is for 2 of the deputies. And hotel costs for the detention center for a conference that our chief correctional officer attended in Jamestown. And the last one is Visa Reliabank for $1,168.64. And that is for miscellaneous supplies and travel costs for search and rescue in the emergency management department.
Move to approve.
I have motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any comments? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Can I take that back? None of that was for, that was 2 for search and rescue. Okay, all right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Let's go on to number 15, action to approve automatic budget supplements. Do we have any of that?
None today.
That's good news. All right. We have one personnel change.
We actually had another one come in, and it's just a standard step increase for an employee. The first one is Jackie Manning. She is a clerk in the Register of Deeds office. She's due a step increase. She'll go to step 13, $20.09 an hour. The second one is Doug Torstensen. He is maintenance 2 at the Highway Department. He's due an anniversary step increase to step 5, $20.62.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Van Dusen, second by Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 17 then, travel requests. I think I have 3 in my packet.
That's what I have. 2 for the State's Attorney's Office for 2 of the Deputy State's Attorneys to attend the State's Attorney Conference in Deadwood. And the third one is the Weed and Pest Supervisor to attend an Emerald Ash Borer Commercial Applicators Workshop and Treatment Program.
Move to approve.
Motion by Hatton, second by
Second.
Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. How about Ventura business? We have any old business to bring to the board today? Any old business? Any old business? Seeing none, let's go on to new business. Any new business?
I put a copy of the stats from my E911 meeting over at the police department last Thursday, so it's just informational for you to look at different calls. They also mentioned that it was, I don't know what the technical term is, Troy, for the dispatchers. It was a recognition for all of their work.
Telecommunicators Week.
Yeah, that they have done, so much appreciated the work that those individuals do on very intense moments. So anyway, it's just informational for you to look over.
It's looks like a quarterly
Yes.
summary of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone have
It's
any
kinda
questions
interesting
for
to
Brenda
see,
in reference to
like all the calls.
that E911 report? Have you had a chance to look at it?
Also, Scott McMahon said that if you would like him to come to one of the meetings and visit, he surely would. And if you have any questions of him that you may have, just let him know if that's something you would like him to do.
I noticed on here, revenue summary for first quarter, and we do get some money from Clark, Day, Dual, Grant, and Hamlin counties as well.
That's all their 911 incentive funds.
That's all the 911.
Yep, everybody's 100% now that they receive for the 911 funds, so that is what they do. And because they do support them also, so most of those counties no longer have a 911 center, so especially after 5, there's a few that have they'll take it during the day, but then, so that's why.
That'll be 6 counties considering Cottington, so that's a pretty good load.
Yeah, when you look at these calls, I mean, there's a lot of calls that go through, so.
Yeah. And you know, it's, if you really want to bring it home, I think Watertown has the most.
Oh, yeah.
Without any question, there's a lot of numbers there. All right, 1,541. Cloud Falls. All right. Anything else? Any other new business? Any other new business?
I don't know, when do we want to mention about the courthouse? Us not having our meeting on the 30th, or we maybe did that last week, but do we want to remind for the 5th
we did
Tuesday?
notice last
Did we
week.
make a note
Yeah, I
last
think
week?
So
Okay,
anyway.
all right, there's no meeting next week, okay.
Yeah, we did that.
Yep, it is in the minutes, all right. Yeah, so that's
Just a
taken care of.
reminder that we won't be.
And I usually send out a reminder midweek that there will be no agenda because of
Yep.
that fact.
So the due date for agenda items is next week, Thursday, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How about the open? What do we have for the open?
Oh, I guess I should mention, I do leave for, I have an executive board meeting tomorrow, so I don't know if there's anything anyone wants me to bring forward.
When do legislative resolutions need to be? Is that July?
Yeah, I
timeframe?
believe it's
July
July
31st, or July 1st or July 31st? August 1st, I'm not sure. Seems like
I
we
think
did
I
that
think
one
it's late
time.
I'd have to
July.
go back
It seems to
and
me it's
look.
late July because I've done it twice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully.
I'll get that
Not too many
date for
months.
sure for you.
July 1st.
I think it's late July.
The last day of July, I believe, but,
I'll double check that.
okay.
But I know that one time it was missed and then they can't be brought back in, and they're pretty
Yeah.
consistent with that, which obviously has to happen because it
Yeah,
happens every
put
year,
pile up,
so.
yeah. You have to get ready for the September conference.
Anything else? Anything else for the open? We'll get Rick back in here. How far did he go? Rick!
He must not be ready yet to come back in.
Having a conference, pretty straightforward.
We have an
It's like
inter-office communication. Rick!
about as straight as you can be.
I thought he can't. Here he is. See, it works. We don't need all this fancy telephone and intercom system. We just holler, right?
Yep.
We weren't
All
sure.
right. You were
weren't sure we could see ya.
deliberating out there, and Cindy, Rick, we found Rick.
Yep.
It was hard to see.
And what are your findings?
I forgot to mention, there was a bid bond with
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about
their
that.
bid. Okay. So bid A was virgin material for 9,000 ton, $772,920. C for virgin material, the 1,500 ton, was $144,645. E for the 500 ton picked up at the plant was $37,250. Total was $954,815.
Rick, can you go over bid E again, the total? 500 tons?
500 tons was $37,250.
And that was the total of how much again?
$954,815.
Okay, thank you.
And for recycled material, was that right?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't get all the way through it. I just,
Again, you're
I
right.
better pay attention here.
Okay, I'll slow down. For the recycled material, for the 9,000 tons, was $677,250. For the bid D, the 1,500 tons, was $128,730. And bid F, the 500 tons, was $29,500. And the total was $835,480.
And that's what I got too. These are considerably higher than last year.
Yes.
How much higher, like,
When I closed my program,
Yeah.
but it was, I think it was
I wanna say it was like
70-something. It was
10%?
70-something a
Yeah.
ton for bid A last year, now it's 85. Yeah.
Yeah, and the recycled was, I think, 69, and this year it's 75.25. So,
about 10%.
yep.
Well, the price of oil has gone up a lot, hasn't it?
Yep, yeah, and on the bid, they crossed it out, then marked it down a little bit, so there must have been a little, oil must have did something.
Well, sure.
Yep,
And,
so,
you know, and not really pertaining to this, but a little bit of a side note, I got a blurb this morning on Facebook, and maybe a bunch of the other ones did, but in Death Valley, California, diesel fuel is $9.97 a gallon this morning.
$9.97.
yeah, that'd be,
And the gas is not far behind.
One more reason to live in South Dakota.
yeah,
Amen.
yep.
So of these, you just kind of different times use the virgin and sometimes you use recycled? Is that kind of what's your process if we approve all of this, or how are you?
We have been going with the recycled because it's cheaper.
Okay.
And that's what we did last year, was
Yes.
we accepted the recycled. You have the
Yep.
option of accepting both, and then, you know, if you need be.
Rick, is there
You can
any,
always-
is there any detrimental thing to using recycled materials, or does it not last as long, or?
The only downfall is if you use too much, you don't have control of what oil is in the mix, because you've already got it on the road, and some of it could be dried out, some of it, there could be fresh oil in there, so there may be a little more oil or whatever in the mix, so that's why we go with 20%. Some places go 30, some go more, but that all varies on what your mix comes out as, so. And
Last year, the virgin was $79 a ton. Well, that was for the 15. Okay, let me get back here. It'd be $69 a ton. That was for 5,800 tons. This year we're doing 9,000.
yeah, and see, we added more to that. There was another
Right.
3,000
Yep.
ton added to that.
So it went from $69 to $75.25, $79 to $85.82, and $47 to $59 for the virgin material from
That
last
is a
year.
lot cheaper.
What did you say was the F? That was 59 now, what was that last year?
47. And I don't know if it's based on, well, that was 500 tons, which this is also.
Yep.
So, yeah.
The
okay.
last two, the 1,500 ton.
Those did not
500
change,
ton,
yep.
Is usually what we do every year.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
top one varies, because there's almost 6 miles there, and that's what we did last year. We
Yep.
wound up doing 6
A
miles.
little bit more.
Yep,
Used
a
to
little bit
be-
more than 6,000.
Yeah, it used to be, could get about 10 miles done in a season for the cost of what it is now to do 6.
I'm not even gonna tell you what it was when I started.
And actually,
I just remember Rick making that, the other Rick making
So
that
what,
statement.
where are you designating to resurface this year?
This is on the south side of Lake Compesca, starting right at, just past the Derby Downs corner, going all the way to our County Road 15,
Yeah.
or 17, excuse me, that goes down to the prop.
Yeah.
From the prop all the way to 212, and then it'll be County Road 15 from where the golf course is up to 212.
Yeah.
There's almost 6 miles there.
And it needs it.
Yep. Yes, it
It's
does.
in tough shape.
Because that was supposed to get done last year.
Yep.
And being they had the plant up there, Rick changed them, so we did County Road 6. They both needed it, so,
Yeah. Fourth Avenue, if you've driven that lately too, I mean, it's rough.
yep.
Fourth
Yes, it
Avenue
is.
a rough one.
It was more economical to do it where the plant was.
And that's, what we should do is just jack those taxes up out at the lake, you know, to kind of offset that. Is Doug sleeping? I said that specifically to try to get him to wake up over there.
JT, I noticed JT's typing over there. That'll be in the paper tomorrow, right?
I didn't say that. I just tried to wake up one of our constituents here, trying to see if he's still alive back there.
So what would be the recommendation to,
Well, last year, what Rick Small recommended at that time was to accept the bid from Dunick and use the recycled product.
So you basically
can
accept
do,
all and
you can just accept the whole bid, and then you have your options open.
Would you like
if need.
how do you
We'll do
want
the
to do it?
recycle.
Okay.
All right?
All right,
Okay.
I'll make a
I'll entertain a
motion.
motion.
Make
Okay.
that motion to accept the recycled.
Okay.
on
And a
Rick's
second by
recommendation.
Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? And that being said,
Is there anything there for Myron to sign? On the
oh yeah, you
bid?
use
I can't remember if they have something that he has
BD
to
and F will
sign.
be all three of them. You use all the different categories. All right, any more discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying
And
aye.
I'll need these when you're done
All
with
same
it.
sign.
I'll take them back.
Yep.
Motion carries. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Got
Rick.
that job done for another year. How was the budget? Have you figured, probably haven't had time to look at what we've spent on snow removal and
No, I'll come up with a figure for that here probably this week.
Some of that may, with the disaster though, we may get reimbursement on some of that, that's approved, right?
Maybe.
When the snow events are,
Yeah.
or only for the snow events, so.
Does it have to meet a threshold? It's a certain threshold?
It does, and I don't know
if
for
we're
sure.
gonna meet
Jim
it.
Sutton could tell you what it is, but I
Yeah.
pretty high.
don't know.
With the first flood and what happened with the snow, ours is not real high.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got some expense to it, but it's not a huge number by any means. But we did lose a culvert over the weekend that the road washed out. We'd had an issue with that from the first go-around, and we patched it to get by, and then the water came up, and now we're probably gonna have to go in and dig the whole thing out and replace it. And
Where's that one at, Rick?
this is 25A up by Wallace,
Okay.
be north of State Highway 20.
Have you made the rounds today? Probably not yet.
No.
Because the water came up yesterday pretty good.
Yeah, and see, some of the water up there had already went down. That was running over the road last week, had went down, so.
Have we got water running over the road anywhere behind my house, and that's a spillway?
Yes, 25A was still running over the other day.
Yeah.
There's a spot down on County Road 20-1, south of Tinkertown, that it was still going over. And that one will need a culvert. The one up on 25A will need a culvert, but the frost has got to go out, and the water's got to go down
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
before we can get in there to do it, so.
The spillway down by Medicine Lake too, that's underwater as well.
Yeah, I would imagine
Quite
most
deep.
of the spillway areas are,
But the spillway behind in my house, I always said, we don't go across if you can't see concrete on both sides, and I was down there yesterday, and you still can't. I mean, it's flowing that good.
is that right?
Yeah, she's flowing pretty good.
I just looked at the one down there too by south of Walmart, and it's the same, it's like roaring through there pretty good.
Yeah.
Probably this morning, because it cooled down last night, it might be down just a little bit, but, all right.
We should be getting rid of the snow. so.
Yep, all right, thank you, Rick.
Oh, I seen a snowflake
Rick.
on my phone for, what day this week? I've seen it, seriously.
Is there anything else for the open? Anything else? Nothing else? I have no
Make a
requests for
motion
executive session.
to
I have
adjourn.
a motion by Hatton to adjourn. Is there a second by?
Second.
Van Duzen. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. We are adjourned. Thank
No
you.
meeting next week.
No meeting next week. No.
Thanks for stepping in.
I would.